Hi guys, it's Fiona. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad to have you here. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to be showing you what I eat in a day, as I thought I'd jump on the bandwagon once again. I'm on my healing journey, and what that means for me is that I'm moving away from unhealthy relationship with food, and I want to bring in more balance. Yes, I want to get in fruit, vegetables and really healthy lean meat, but I also want to enjoy myself because that's life. So I've made sure that I have all my healthy, wholesome foods, whole foods, and I also have treats as well. It's all about balance and it's all about moderation. So here we go. So I'm going to be showing you what I eat throughout the day for one day, and let's go. So at the beginning of the morning, you have to hit your body with some water, and I had some water with some lime juice in there. I know that I have a substantial amount of water before I have anything to eat in the morning, and this just refreshes my body and just also lines my belly for the food that I'm about to have. So once I have all that water, I now get prepared for having something to eat. And in the morning, I really like to have a cooked breakfast, and this day is no different. So I get myself ready to make some kale, and I liked it cooked in the morning. It's kind of Caribbean style that I'm doing. So I get some garlic and some onions, and I got this juicy tomato from the garden, and I cut that up. I am so pleased about the produce that I have in my garden at the moment. The tomatoes are so juicy, and we have turnips, and we have a few other things that I'm going to be showing you later on in the video, so stay tuned. But yeah, so I'm just getting all my ingredients prepared for the pan, and yeah, once I've done that, I'm going to line my pan with some olive oil ready to cook. And yeah, I'm just going to throw all my ingredients into the pan and let that stew down for a little bit, so about 5 to 10 minutes. So that's done, I add the washed kale into the pan, and I give that a little bit of time in the pan with the rest of the ingredients. I'll say about 8 to 10 minutes. That gives enough time for the kale to be broken down, and it comes down a little bit in size after you put it in the pan. Once done, I plate up, and I have this with some sourdough bread that I made, and I top this off with a peppermint tea, and yeah, breakfast is served. I enjoy having something like this in the morning. I get my fibre in, and I get my vegetables in the morning. If you want, you can add some egg to this just to get some protein, but all in all, I enjoy having something like this in the morning. Lunch was a mini charcuterie plate. I had a lot of fruit, and I had some tomatoes and some mozzarella cheese and a few other bits to tie me over. One thing about me, I love preparing some food so that I have something on hand so that I don't go and eat out. And one thing that I'm really enjoying at the moment is making meatballs. And I made a huge batch today. I used beef and pork mince, and I really do think that this gives the meatballs a really good flavour. So here's me preparing the meat, and I'm putting it all in a bowl, and I put this all in a bowl, and once I do that, I add some seasonings. Things that I add to the meatballs give it a really nice flavour profile, and I also tried doing something different because I didn't have the usual seasonings that I have, so I just went with it. Anyway, this is me cutting up an onion because I like to have fresh condiments inside my meatballs. You know that if you watched what I eat in a few days, that I really enjoy making meatballs. You know what, I think that is really good that you can have a meal that you can always go to. Recently, I've been stuck in a rut by eating a lot of chicken, so I thought I'd change it up, and I haven't changed it since. So back to the task at hand, I add some garlic, and I recently got this garlic crusher, and I don't know what I was doing without it for so long. Anyway, I'm using my garlic crusher to add about 3 cloves of garlic to my pork mince. You can see I was struggling a little bit, but we got there in the end. So I do that, and here's me going into my cupboards to find my seasonings. So I have a few, and yeah, I like to add a few seasonings, but I feel that the meat gives a good flavour, so you don't have to add as much as I do. Even add just a little plain salt and pepper, and that would work, I think, because the meat really does carry the flavour. Anyway, here's what I use for my seasonings, and I start off by adding some salt. Now I add this, and I'll also add a few other things. So one of the other things that I like to add is some paprika, and I add that into my bowl. I also tried using 5 spice. This was actually a hit. And I enjoyed having this in my meatballs. 5 spice is a really good blend of different herbs and spices, so that really worked for this time round. Anyway, I add in some white pepper, and I add a little bit because it is quite strong. I add some garlic powder to the mix, and I finish this off with some Italian herb spice to my bowl. And we ain't finished there yet, so just to make sure that the meatballs, when you're forming them, that they bind, I add 2 eggs, and this helps with the binding of the meat and the ingredients in the bowl. I also add some breadcrumbs. Now I didn't have any on hand, but what I did is I had some bread that I just milled up in the blender. Now this is a pro tip: when you don't have any breadcrumbs, all you gotta do is just mill your own in the blender, and that really works as well. So yeah, I add that, and I really get going with this. So everything needs to be combined and incorporated together. So I first use my spoon or my mixing utensil, and then I get my hands involved in there. You can use a glove or washed hand and do this. So this is perfectly fine. And then once everything's all combined, I really get into the forming of the meatballs. Now I was here for some time, so I put on a YouTube video and I just got rolling, and the time just went by. This yielded so many meatballs, and obviously if you want to make them a little bit smaller, you would have some more. I don't remember how much I actually made, but this was a lot. I was definitely meal prepped up for the next few days when I made these. And you have a lot of options with making meatballs. You can have them with spaghetti as Italian style, or later on I'll show you what I made with them. You can have them with rice, or you can even put them in pita bowls, or have them in sandwiches, and it's really a good thing to have on hand. Anyway, these go into the oven for about 30 minutes on a heat temperature of about 180 degrees Fahrenheit. You can turn them as they're in the oven, but they come out okay. Anyway, here they are. They're so juicy, and they were really good and really flavorful. Now I want to take a minute to show you what I have in my garden, and I always like updating my audience with what I have in my garden. And here we have a pumpkin that is almost nearly ready, and I also have some really juicy tomatoes. Oh, look at them, they're so gorgeous. They're nearly ripe. And I always like showcasing the garden because I'm a big proponent of growing your own if you can, even if you have a small space. It's really good to have your own produce, and I think it can be a bit cost effective also as well. If you can get started on doing some homegrown produce, I'd really recommend it. Yeah, that's my garden. Anyway, back to the kitchen, and it's almost dinner time, but before I do that, I'm gonna mix up a tzatziki. Now, tzatziki is a yogurt sauce that has all these nice herbs to make. You want to get a Greek yogurt, And you want to add some lemon juice to your yogurt. I used half a lemon, and that was enough for the amount of yogurt I added to the bowl. Anyway, once you've done that, you want to add some garlic. Now here comes the garlic crusher. So you want to add a clove, not anymore, just a clove of garlic. You also want to add some olive oil to your bowl, some ground cumin, and you want to add some salt. Now here come the fresh herbs. You want to add about a handful of dill to your bowl, and you want to top that off with some fresh mint. Now this brings the flavour. You also want to add the most important ingredient is grated cucumber. I lost the footage of me doing the grated cucumber, but essentially you want to grate it and you want to put it in a muslin cloth just to squeeze out the excess water, and you just want to add it to your bowl. You want to give this a really good mix. That is your tzatziki sauce. It's so flavorful. Honestly, I really enjoy making food that has a lot of flavor. So it's really nice, really creamy, and really good thing to have with your meatballs. Today I had a meatball salad, and I topped it off with a little bit of feta cheese. I'm an avid cheese lover, so yeah, I had that for dinner. And it's really starting to get a little bit late, so I decided to have a few things. One of which is a cup of peppermint tea, and I top it off with a chocolate. Yeah, this is my treat that I have. Yeah, it's really all about balance for me. This is all that I have in the day, and yeah, I really enjoyed recording this. Anyway, if you want to see more, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye now.